Hey, welcome to FunNGun. Got quite a bit of stuff on the table today, and that's because I'm going to go ahead and try to answer a few things in one video here. First off being, what magazines or magazine setups do I use to get more rounds out of my CWA 2211? And then the majority of the video is going to be me talking about the M9 Engineering Plus 10 extension here and different setups and different parts you can use to get different round counts out of this and get the best reliability out of it, and just all around different information about this. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and say a big thanks to CWA Optics for bringing me on as an affiliate of their brand. If you're looking for a good red dot sight that's not going to break the bank, you can use the link in the description below there to open up their website and use code FunNGun at checkout to get 10% off nearly everything on their website. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this video is for educational purposes only. No firearms in this video are for sale. No products in this video I am selling. So just putting that out there. Everything you see on this table I paid for with my own money. So now that I said that, maybe YouTube will leave me alone. So we're going to go ahead and start off on the far left side of the table here. And this is going to be the representation of a factory 10-round magazine for a GSG pistol. The only main difference with these is they have these +0 extensions on them from CWA. And that's to make them where they will work with the large mag well on the gun you just seen there a second ago. And this is going to be your factory follower. The little pin that goes in there where you can pull it down to load the magazine. And I take that out of all my 10-round magazines regardless, because it's just one less thing to drag going up and down. And I use this lightning grip loader from McFadden Machine instead. Now I will say this is definitely something you're going to probably want to pick up, especially if you plan on building any of these magazines right here, because you're going to want something to go ahead and load them with instead of just sitting there thumbing rounds in. So that is what I use, and I go ahead and remove the little tab right there. This is the factory 18 coil spring. This is your factory base plate and retainer. So that is what's going to represent the factory setup here. And this is going to bring me over to the magazine right here that really I have pretty much got this question about from the get-go, is how I have these set up and why do they run so good. And I've refrained from making this video on these particular magazines for one reason. They have a prototype CWA follower in them that he only made like 20 of them, and I have 5 of them, and the rest of them are gone. So I didn't feel like it was no point in me really making a video showing this full setup, because you couldn't recreate them without having these followers. Now I will say the majority of this build is using the Taylor Tactical setup here, which is going to be the 21 coil spring, their follower, and then their base. And then on the bottom of these I have Rogers holsters magazine extensions that are made for a regular 1911. They're just epoxy on the bottom there, and that's for the same reason as these, to get it to the length where I can slap these in with that large mag well on the gun there. So I actually did have to do quite a bit of work on these followers as well. I went in and deburred all the edges of them, polished up a lot of stuff, and got them where they would run pretty darn well. And the real difference here in the CWA one and your Taylor Tactical one is going to be, as you can see there, the CWA one slides down into the spring farther, or the spring slides up over it farther, and it's going to have this little foot right here, and that's going to keep it from being able to tilt as easily inside the mag body, and it's going to make it run smoother. So I'm not sure why he never decided to come out with these, but they do work pretty well, as you've seen me run them over the last year or so of having this gun. Now I will say they have the tab right here completely cut off of them, so you do not have the ability to make the gun lock open, which is not a big deal, because as you'll see here, as I talk about it more in the video, that particular gun does not lock open. It doesn't matter what you do to it. I have tried all kinds of different stuff, as we'll go, throughout the video here. So I'm going to go ahead and move that off to the side here a little bit, and that's going to bring us to the main star of the show, and that's going to be the M9 Engineering Plus 10 extension right here, kit, and what all you get with it. So you're going to get a follower right here that's going to allow you to build the 22-round configuration, also a 25-round configuration if you really want to push it. And then the easiest configuration, which is actually what the follower was designed to work with, is going to be this follower right here, which is going to be a +1 follower with the extension. Is going to be altogether +10, giving you a 20-round magazine. And then to get 25, you're going to use your Taylor Tactical extension on the end of this this right here, which I'll bring one in right there. And that is because the bottom side of these magazine extensions are exactly the same as the mag itself, so you can slip those on there, and that would be the 25-round configuration that you will see later in the video. And then you're going to get these really nice mag bases here. You got the rubber cover. You don't have to run this, but I would recommend it, because it's going to save this part from getting bashed on the ground, because this is a 3D printed rubber, so it gives it a little bit of more cushion, and it also gives you more grip with these holes in it when you're drawing this out of a mag holster, which is pretty cool. And then you get his 3D printed proprietary mag base holder there. So that's what you're going to get in the kit. And then I have multiple different representations of springs because there is a few different ways you can go about this. And you have to modify the springs here. We'll get more into that when I show myself putting one of these together later in the video here. But what we have right here is going to be this factory 18 round cool spring that has been modified. And as you can see here, when you put these two side by side, the modified one is going to be significantly longer and it's going to have significantly more spring tension, which is what you're going to need to have these run. Now the idea behind this is you want to continue to modify the spring until you get the actual follower tab to lock the gun open. Now that was a little bit tricky for my settings here because my doings here, because like I said, that particular gun over there does not lock open. Pretty much doesn't matter what you do. So I kind of just had to sit there and tune on until it ran. But if you have a GSG pistol, it's going to make that a lot easier because you can sit there and tune these springs and do the modification to them until it locks open. Just keep putting it back together. And then you're going to go ahead and do a couple more coils after that and modify them to go ahead and make sure it retains tension. And what you're doing here to modify these, I'm going to go ahead and do it on this one right here because I don't want to mess with that because I got it in a pretty happy spot there. But you're going to go ahead, and I've been using these flat square pliers, which is pretty nice for this. It's just something I had laying around because it's going to give you pretty much the perfect spacing here. Now, you don't have to get just like super precise with this, but you're going to go ahead and get the end of the spring in there. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to push up on the one above and down on the one on the bottom. And you just want to go ahead and double the gap there. And that's going to go ahead and give you more tension on the spring. And you just go ahead and let's do it again right here. And do it right there. And as you can see there, it's starting to make that spring a little bit longer. And I've done pretty much the entire spring here. You can go ahead and pause the video and count right there. I believe I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 18 coils that aren't modified. Or it might be 5 if you count this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 coils basically that I didn't modify. Now, I haven't tested this spring yet. This is going to be the spring we use for the testing later in the video. I just went ahead and modified it, so I did not have to do it again to show you that because it takes a little while to do that, and you want to make sure you keep it as straight as you can. Now, another option is going to be this spring right here, which like I mentioned earlier is a 21 coil spring from Taylor Tactical, and I also went ahead and modified this. Now, this is going to be more recommended if you try to go the 22 round route. This is going to be a lot easier to get set up for that. Now, you shouldn't need it to do the 20 round route. You should be able to just use what you have with the factory spring and what you get in the kit to get to 20 rounds, which like I said, this is what this is designed for. But he calls it pushing the limits when you go to 22 rounds or 25 rounds because you do have to do some modifications to the actual mag body itself, which I will get into later in the video. So that's another option right there. And then one more option right here is going to be a 22 coil spring, which I don't have out right now because it's currently in this magazine right here. And I chose to just go ahead and leave it in because at this point that's the only one I had that would work in it. But the 22 coil spring is actually made for a Smith & Wesson pistol, so when you go on there, you're not going to find it listed under the GSG parts. But that is a spring that I have that I actually got when I was originally trying to make these followers right here lock open in this configuration. But like I said, never did work. So that's a few spring options. And then the option I ended up going with in the majority of my mags, and I plan on going in or putting in the rest of them, is going to be this right here, which is a Smith & Wesson 1522 magazine spring. And I actually just took this one out of a broken magazine that I already had laying around. That's also what's in this magazine right here. And then your better option for that is if you don't have any broken 1522 mags laying around, you can go on Board Buddy and pick up a 3-pack of these springs right here, and you're going to go ahead and trim them down. And what I did was trim them down to a 22 coil, like the one I was mentioning you can get from Taylor Tactical, and then I did modify this a little bit to get the tension back up. Now, you would think, why wouldn't you just go ahead and make the spring that long and then cut it? And you can't really do that, and the 22 coils is kind of the sweet spot because if you go anything more than that, you're not going to be able to get the maximum amount of rounds into the magazine. You're going to end up really with more tension than you need. So 22 coils seems to be the sweet spot. I might experiment with 23 when I try to get it to run as 25 again. We'll get to that later in the video. But what we're going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to clear everything off the table. I'm going to bring a fresh set of M90 Engineering parts in here. We're going to go over the process of getting the base onto the mag body, getting it lined up, getting it set into place, and then setting up the different types of spring setups here. And we'll start off with it as a 20 round mag. We'll go ahead and take it out, test it, come back in, set it up as a 22, take it out, test it, and then we'll come back in, set it up as a 25, and then we'll go back and take it out and test it as well. So let's go ahead and get all this off the table, bring in the fresh set of parts here, and we'll go ahead and get that put together right now. Okay, we got everything on the table now that we're going to need to set this up as a 20 round magazine. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is recommend you go ahead and scan this QR code right here, and if you don't have a way to scan it on your screen there, go ahead and check out the description there. I'll put a link to it there as well. And what that's going to do is open you up to a sub page for the M9 Engineering social medias and whatnot. And it allows you to get more information and stuff about this particular setup. So what we're going to do now is show you what's in the box when you get these in. You're going to get the extension itself, the 20 round follower, the 22 or 25 round follower, the rubber piece that slips over your mag base here to give you some cushion there, your retainer, and then the green glue here that you're going to use to lock the base onto the magazine body itself there. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is show you the first step here. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and go over a step that I do that's not in his instructions. It's just something I like to do on extended magazines of pretty much any type that I mess with, and that is going to be take a small file and just go ahead and lightly bevel the inside of the mag body itself, the inside of the extension itself right there, just lightly. And the reason I do that is because it gives you less of a chance for something to be able to bind up on the inside right there, because there's not going to be any just sharp edges. So what you're going to do right here is you're going to go ahead and look down the mag tube right here and do your best to make sure that everything is properly lined up on the inside right there. We don't have any parts overlapping each other where you're going to get drag points. Then you're going to take the follower, and it doesn't matter how you build this, you want to use the larger follower to do this test because it's going to create more of a chance for it to drag being a larger follower. So if you're going to build this as a 20 round or a 22 round, either way, I recommend using this follower to set this up. So what you're going to do is go ahead and just slide it back and forth and do it with the magazine in multiple different positions here. As you can see, I'm just rolling the magazine around to make sure the follower comes back and hits my finger smoothly and doesn't get bound up on the inside right there. And once you're happy with what you have on the inside right there, go ahead and check it one more time. I don't want to rush this because this is vital to this running properly. So just go ahead and take your time with this. There's no rushing it. Now I will say that when you're doing this, you will get the locking tab to bind up on this right here. That's not a big deal. That's just something because there's no spring tension on it. It allows it to hang up. That's not going to be a problem when this is cycling. So it seems that I have that in a good position. What we're going to go ahead and do now is lock it into place using the glue right here. You're going to go ahead and apply some on the back corner on both sides, in the gap right here, on both corners, in the gap on the front, and also on the gap on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then I'm going to go ahead and let it set up, and then we will come back once the glue has set, and we'll go ahead and assemble this magazine as a 20 round magazine. So I'm going to go ahead and cut right here, and I'll come back once the glue here has set up. Okay, went ahead and gave it to the next day to make sure the glue had plenty of time to go ahead and set up, holding the extension onto the mag body there. The next step I usually like to take is go ahead and take a rag and wipe off the excess glue off the outside of the mag body there. That way it's not going to be sticky and just looks all around better. You're going to go ahead and take your follower, put it in there, and you're going to go ahead and run the same test that I did a second ago, making sure there is no binding there to make sure that nothing has shifted when the glue was drying. Now, I will say that I do prefer to go ahead and make sure these mag bodies are stood up like this right here when the glue is drying to keep it from going ahead and running out of the cracks, and just helps prevent stuff from shifting. So you just go ahead and brace some stuff up against it to keep it from falling over, and that's the way I like to do it. Now, I will say it's not the end of the world if you get these glued together and you do find some drag when you do that test right there, something shifted, and that is because you can still get these two pieces apart. It's just a little bit of work, and you can go ahead and clean them up and reset there. So don't freak out if that happens to you there. It's just a little bit more of a process to go ahead and get them set up after that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the follower into the body there, and it's going to bring us to the spring. Like I said earlier in the video, you are going to have to modify the 10 round spring to keep yourself from having to pick up any additional parts to make this work. And like I said before, to do so, you're going to go ahead and take a pair of pliers such as these right here. You're going to go ahead and, let's see, I hadn't modified this core right here yet. You're going to find that spot right there, line it up. You're going to go ahead and bend the bottom one down a little bit, the top one up a little bit. You're going to go ahead and just create a little bit more tension there. And as you can see there, the spring's starting to curve that way. So to go ahead and straighten it back up, you're going to go ahead and just bend this one up just a little bit more. And you want to go ahead and do that if you're done modifying it, just to keep the spring as straight as you can. So I've already pre-modified this spring right here. Like I said, this is an 18 coil spring. I didn't modify the top 4. Now this is not going to be for everybody's gun. This is how I have it set up currently. Now if you get one of these, the way you're actually meant to do this is you're going to take it, say you modify that much of the spring, you're going to build it, see if it locks your gun open. If it doesn't, you'll go ahead and modify a little bit more. And let's say you get that modified and the gun locks open. You're going to go ahead and modify a couple more springs there, or coils there, to make sure you have plenty of tension on everything when it's going to feed there. And you should be good to go at that point. So I've already got this magazine spring set up. The way I like to do it is go ahead and put the unmodified part inside the mag tube first and point this part right here towards the front, because that is how these magazines are designed to be done. So you go ahead and insert the spring, put your finger over it. You're going to bring in your retainer little plate right here and get that down in there. Then you're going to bring in your mag base. Go ahead and get the base on. It's a nice snug fit there. Make sure the retaining plate pops into place and put your little rubber piece on there. And the cool thing about the rubber piece is it does have a little bit of a brim on it there, or just a little bit there that keeps it from popping off easily. And now this magazine is ready to be tested. So let's go ahead and test it out in the 20 round configuration now. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and show you how to push the limits on this particular magazine setup, bring it up to 22 rounds, and later in the video we'll get into 25 rounds. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you a warning right here. If you're just looking to plink with these particular mag setups, I recommend going ahead and leaving them as a 20 round magazine, because you're getting into a little bit more of a headache to get them to run as a 22 and especially a 25, because there is a lot more involved in making this work. Your ammo is going to start playing into this a lot more. The recoil spring in the gun is as well. And you're going to have to modify your magazine, like I'm going to go ahead and show you right here. So what you're going to have to do here is, I'm going to put some pictures off to the side while I'm talking here, because it's going to be a lot harder to show you this up close. But your feed lip is going to have to be modified. You're going to have to go ahead and bring it down, radius a little bit, and then also on the inside, you're going to go ahead and put it in there about that angle right there, and bring it down on the inside as well. And I've been using this little file right here that I got from Harbor Freight that is radiused on both sides to go ahead and maintain a nice radius on the inside of the magazine right there, so the bullet has a nice path to follow. Now that's something you're going to have to do, especially if you want to make it run as a 25, and it helps as a 22 as well, and you may have to do it as a 22 depending on your gun setup as well. Then another issue that I actually ran into making this particular body into a 20 round magazine that I didn't show is because after I built it, I went out to test it, and I was having issues with the rounds flipping out of the top of it. And what you're going to do there is, Nicholas actually recommends putting this in some boiling water, getting it pretty warm, because this is a cast piece, and that's why this is an issue, because your specs can be a little bit off on these. But you're going to go ahead and bend your feed lips in a little bit with a pair of pliers or something. Just be real careful with it not to crack them. That's why he recommends boiling it. But you're going to go ahead and get them in, and you're looking for about that feed angle right there on your magazine, or the round in the magazine. And as you can see the picture of this magazine off the side there, it was sticking way up, and that was causing the rounds to actually flick out, live rounds, and going outside the gun there, and it runs into issues where the round will run into the top of the feed lip as well, or the chamber as well, I mean. So that is something you might have to mess with regardless, but that's the only modifications you really got to do to the mag tube there. Now you might have to come back and adjust on this a little bit. You just go test it. Don't want to get too carried away with it, because if you go too far down, you can get this to where it is below your actual feed lip that's mounted on the barrel itself. So you're looking to get that more in line with it, so that round's coming out, hitting the feed lip and going straight into the chamber, versus going high. Or if this is too high like it is from the factory, it can make the round pop up and hit the front of the chamber, like I was talking about a second ago. So you kind of got to fiddle with this, tune the tension on the top of the feed lips there to get this to run. Then you're going to have to get into the magazine springs here, and I'm going to recommend you definitely go ahead and pick up a different magazine spring than the 10-round mag spring that you use to make it a 20-round magazine. What I have been running in this, and I misspoke there in the first part and said I cut these Smith & Wesson mags springs down to a 22 cool. This is actually a 23 cool. The one that I showed you there is actually one magazine that I actually did cut as a 22, and I had to modify it to get enough tension on it, and it does not run exactly right. And I actually didn't realize that until I started making this video, but this is mag number 1, which has this exact setup in it, and this is actually currently my most reliable one of these I have. Then mag 3 has the 22 coil magazine spring from Taylor Tactical that I was mentioning a second ago in it, and it is modified, and this one has been running well also. And once I realized this one did not have the same setup as this, I actually went ahead and modified a few more coils in this one so I can do some more testing with it and see if I can get it to be a little bit more reliable as well. So this is the Taylor Tactical spring modified. This is the Taylor Tactical 20. These are both 21 round coils, and I've only modified, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of them at the top that aren't modified. And like I said earlier, you're going to want to do this the same way you did to make it a 20 round magazine. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is drop our follower in here. And when you cut this spring off, your top coil is going to be sticking up, or this is going to be like a little stick up right there. You're going to take your same pair of pliers. You're going to go ahead and bend it down, make it a nice in line with the opposite side. That is the side you're going to want to put on the top, because this side right here, as you can see there, is cut short. So we're going to go ahead and install that into the magazine, put the base on it, and then after that, we're going to go out there and test it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, I want to go ahead and show you this setup just because I said I would, and I'm going to go ahead and say right now, this is not really worth messing with. It is a real pain in the butt. It's extremely finicky, and I kept saying it's 25 rounds, but today I'm only able to get 24 in it. I have got 25 in the past, but I'm not willing to cut down my 23 coil spring here. I did think about it. That's why I have that other spring that's cut to 22 coils and modified, because I was trying to get that extra 25th round in one of these when I was trying to make it run as a 25. With the 23, you're only able to get 24. So that's what we're going to go ahead and mess with today. And like I said, this is just to show you that you can do this. It's a real pain in the butt to get this to work, but either way, you're going to go ahead and use your small follower here. You're going to drop it in there. You're going to use your 23 coil spring here, and then you're going to take your Taylor Tactical extension and add it to your extension, and that's going to be your double extension right there. And just for this part, I'm going to go ahead and wrap that in tape to hold it on there, because I don't feel like modifying the bottom of my extension here to make this lock onto it, just for the fact that this is going to end up as a 22 round magazine after the video anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and put some tape on that, and we'll head out to the range and see how this functions. Okay, if you made it this far in the video, I want to go ahead and apologize for the video being as long as it was, but had a lot of information that I wanted to go ahead and share about this particular magazine setup. And I'm assuming if you're still watching the video at this point, you were one of the people that wanted to find out that information, so I appreciate that. Now what we're going to do is talk about this a little bit more, and we'll go ahead and close out the video. So as you can see there, this particular magazine setup is a 24 round magazine. It actually runs pretty darn well. And I did mention that I was probably going to pull this off and go ahead and turn it into a 22, but since I'm not lacking in the 22 round magazine department, as you can see here, I'll probably leave this as a 24 for a little while and actually experiment with it a little bit more, because it would be pretty cool to actually have a functioning 24 round mag as well. Now, as of options for picking these up for yourself, you do have the option, as you see here, as buying them as a kit, assembling it yourself, tuning it yourself, and getting them run yourself. And that is going to be the quickest option, because you're looking at 1 to 2 weeks shipping, or if you're in the US, because these are coming from the UK. Now, if you want to get a pre-built and tuned magazine, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks, because Nicholas has to get an import license to import it as a complete unit. So that's going to be a little bit longer wait, but you're going to not have to do all the headache of getting it to run yourself. And then there is the possibility of a third option coming at some point that's going to make these a lot easier to get in the US. And I'm not going to elaborate on that a whole lot, because the deal hasn't really been done yet. This just is something that could be possible, and that's going to be in the far future, not the near future. So don't hold your breath on that. And if there is something that ends up coming of that, I'll go ahead and probably make a second video, and it will be linked at the end of this video if it does end up happening. And if you want to see some more footage of me running these particular extensions in a competition video and just see how they ran for me, I'll go ahead and link that at the end as well. And I will say that I wasn't fully done ironing out some of the kinks, so I did have a few issues in that video, but it wasn't bad at all. I put about 150 to 175 rounds through them, and I only had 2 failures the entire competition. So that's pretty good in my book. So if you want to check that out, it'll be linked at the end here as well. So if you're looking to have a cool magazine set up for your CWA 2211 or specifically your GSG, what they're actually made for, you can go ahead and pick some of these up, and you're going to have a lot of fun with them. That's all I had for you today. Okay, if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you're looking for more FunNGun right now, you can click one of the 2 recommended videos there. If you're looking for more FunNGun later, you can go ahead and click that there subscribe button. I sure would appreciate it. And if you're finding me from Facebook, go ahead and click that open app button at the top to make all that a lot easier, and I'll see you next time.